Hi, beautiful souls. It's Tan back here again today with you on this Astrology, Human Design, and Gene Keys channel. And I'm here again today with Cindy, who is an astrologer and a human design guide on the Tan Astrology team. And today is a very exciting day because we're going to be looking at the different types in human design from the perspective of quantum human design. So a few weeks ago, we made an introduction video to what is quantum human design and how does it differ from traditional human design. So if you haven't watched that video yet, I would recommend it. So I'll provide a link to that up above in the description box below. So you guys can watch that and then come back and watch this video. So in this video, we're going to be going through the different types in human design and how the interpretation of the types in quantum human design is different from traditional human design. So it's very exciting to be doing this with you, Cindy, today. So I'll just hand it over.
I'm also looking forward to it. So as we said last time, in quantum human design, we have a specific language that is explaining different archetypes. So here we have the 5 different types and they have special names. And so we thought it would be interesting to bring a little bit more magic into our daily lives.
Yay. That's what I like about quantum human design. It's so magical.
Yes, exactly. And I think we all can need a little bit more of that in our lives. So I would start sharing my screen. So let's start with the first type, which is in traditional human design, the Manifestor. And in quantum human design, they call it the Initiator.
So before we get into the quantum human design language of the Initiator, I just wanted to, tell a little bit about the traditional human design language, which is the Manifestor. So if you search online for human design types, you will find that this Manifestor type is one of the human design types, and it makes up like a very small part of the population. I think it's about 8%. Is that right, Cindy? Of the population. So we would know traditionally that the Manifestor has a direct connection from the motor to the throat, which means that they are here to act on their creative urges, and they don't have to wait to respond. They don't have to wait for invitations. If they get a sudden spark to create or to take action, they can do that. The only thing they may have to do is to inform. So that would be their strategy. Because if they don't inform people, they can be in the shadow of anger because people might kind of ask them what they're doing, and they may feel that that means they have to stop what they're doing, and then their creative momentum gets disrupted, and so they get into anger. So to inform people would be the strategy of the Manifestor. So that's kind of like the traditional way that we would understand the Manifestor in human design. So now we're going to go into the quantum human design to see how this may differ a little bit and what's the new language that's come in here.
Yes, so in quantum human design, as Tan already mentioned, for the Manifestor, it's important that they have this direct connection to the throat. So the quantum Initiator has a direct nonverbal connection basically to the divine. They are a very transformational force with a lot of creativity within them. And so this is what Ten said, that the emotional theme of an initiator or a manifestor is anger. And this is a sign for them, if they are getting angry, that their nonverbal internal creative flow is being interrupted. So in order to prevent this, their strategy is to inform others before they're like, if they already get the feeling of, okay, now like my creativity is on, I have to do something, I'm in the flow, then they have to inform others around them that now, like for the next 2 hours, they don't want to be disturbed, because otherwise their creative flow is getting interrupted, and this can lead to anger. And in quantum human design, Karen Curry Parker also explains that the initiator is the type that is kind of waking up the world, because they have the ability to channel things like through their creativity, they're kind of taking the lead, or, and have this. Yeah, sometimes they can trigger other people because they have such a strong aura. They even call it a repelling aura. But I mean, these are, let's say, power struggles in the world, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Like other people are like trigger each other. So for the manifestor, it's important that they get in touch with their power, and that they're not, that's really crucial for them actually already in a young age, that they will not hide their power, and that they learn that they have to inform. Because if they are failing to inform others about their creative flow and about what they're now going to be doing, or that they need some time for themselves, then it will come to power struggles for initiators or manifestors, especially in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, many manifestors that I met, they had a feeling of being alone or misunderstood. And by actually communicating or informing, they can prevent this feeling of being alone.
Yeah, I just wanted to add here as well that, like what you said about them kind of having these power struggles. And I think one of the reasons why they end up having power struggles is not because they are powerful, but it's because they are trying to be smaller than they actually are. Because when they do that and they're not initiating or taking action, then other people around them feel like, those other people have to be the one to take action or to initiate. And so when the people around the manifestor or the initiator initiates rather than the initiator, then the initiator feels uncomfortable, feels trapped. And then we get into this sort of struggle. And then now they're like, okay, I was being small. How can I be bigger? I'm not sure anymore. And so we have this like dynamic that can happen. So it's important to not play small since the beginning, because that can have this push and pull effect happening.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's so true. And also that as children, or they should ask themselves if as children they were already able to follow their own flow, actually, because like this, then they will get in touch more with this inner creativity, that inner flow.
Yeah, for sure. I was wondering if you wanted to share a little bit about Karen's phrase for the initiator as translating divine inspiration into action. How do you feel about that phrase that she's given to the initiator?
It's a magical phrase.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think that a spark of this we all have within us. So I would say, like, also these 5 types, they are archetypes. So not only because now, like you and me, we are not manifestors, that doesn't mean that we cannot manifest, let's say. It's just that there are different energies the manifestor or the initiator can work with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think maybe this is, it's crucial for everyone to know, because often then people say like, oh, I wish I were a manifestor or an initiator. But it can be hard. I mean, I don't like, I'm not an initiator or like in this way, but I think for them, the most important thing is really to understand the power that is laying within them, and to allow themselves actually to have this connection to, let's call it a divine or spirit or whatever, and then being able to channel that knowledge through, or this wisdom.
Yeah, so important that, like I like the initiator, just like the quantum human design language. So we don't get this confusion with, if you're not a manifestor, then you can't manifest. So I think this new language of bringing the word initiator here, not just accurate, but it's also much more wholesome in many ways as well.
Yes. And especially in our society, I think today or nowadays, we're all, and we will come to this when we go further to the generator or the alchemist, we were actually trained to initiate, but that's not always the way. Like sometimes we try to push through something, but if it is not the right timing, and that's also really important for the initiator, the right timing, they can only move forward if these things that they want to create are actually aligned with divine timing. And yes.
Yeah, for sure. That's really important. Yeah. Do you have anything else that you wanted to add for the initiator?
Maybe just one really nice question for contemplation for our initiators out there. So how do you feel about being powerful? I think that's a good question to contemplate on and to dive deeper in.
Yeah. And what does power mean for you as an initiator as well?
True. Yes.
So I
Yes,
found
please.
a connection, or just say my own little way of connecting things of the different quantum human design types and witches, because there are different types of witches in the world. And I feel because this is so magical that I wanted to make a connection of what human design type can be, which archetype. So for the initiator, I would associate them as the solitary witch. That goes with what you said as well about them maybe sometimes feeling alone. But that's part of their path here, is to be a little bit more solitary, because sometimes witches are parts of covens, or sometimes witches are hereditary witches, but an initiator type is a solitary witch, which is a witch that works alone and does best when they're working alone. So I wanted to read a little poem that I found from Witches of the Craft. This is for the solitary witch. So she walks the moonlit path of night, follows the fairies' light. She stops near an ancient stream and calls to her nature's power. Hidden meanings, carved out signs, whispered magic, ancient rhymes. She casts her spells, opens her circle. Alone she walks the forest path back. The power strengthens with her age, from maiden to mother to crone. As the wheels of years turn, so does her mind spin. She works alone through history's path. She loves no other but her craft. She is a solitary witch in a solitary world. She weaves her magic and casts her spells.
So. Wow. Now I've got goosebumps.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yes, that's for all the initiators. Okay. So next we have the generator, which is the traditional name of this type in human design. And then in the quantum human design, we have the alchemist as the name, which is much more magical. So traditionally, what we understand from the generator type is that they have a defined sacral, but they don't have a connection to the throat from a motor center. So what we would usually hear or read when we're reading about the generator is that they have to wait to respond when they want to take action. So when they want to do something, they have to wait first to respond. And maybe it's their sacral that will tell them whether something is right to respond to or not. So this could be like stimuli from the environment. This could be other people saying things. But that's generally the typical definition. And as a generator type with that defined sacral, it's important to do work that you enjoy and that you feel excited about. Otherwise, you can be in a state of the shadow, which is frustration. But if you do something that you enjoy doing, then you would be in your higher self of satisfaction. So that's the typical traditional definition of a generator.
Yeah, and in quantum human design, they call the generator the alchemist. So, and as Tan already said, the strategy for an alchemist is different to the strategy of an initiator that we had before. So the alchemists, they're here and to wait to respond. So by actually enduring and sustaining and doing the job that is fulfilling them, that is actually kind of that they feel that it is supporting a bigger kind of purpose beyond their job, then this is how they can activate their sacral energy. So that's how they keep the vibe high, let's say. And they have to learn the know-how over how to navigate through life. And on this journey, let's say through life, they're here for self-mastery or like finding mastery in what they're doing and what makes them happy. And it's like repetition, like doing things over and over again is actually crucial for them. And that's something I think that sometimes in our society is not accepted, or we just don't have the time actually to do things over and over again, or we think we don't have the time. And so, but the Alchemist has a staircase or stair-step learning curve. So they're really learning until they reach a plateau of where they have actually learned so much that then they don't really know anymore what to do now, or like there's frustration coming up and they ask themselves like, why did I do that? And how did I actually end up being here? And so many people or many alchemists, if they're at this point of frustration, they quit because they think, okay, I don't know, I'm on a one-way road here. I don't know how to return or to come back. But actually, this is just a time to take a step back and to actually realign with your purpose and to integrate everything that they have learned over the past years. And then with like making that space and integrating, reflecting on everything they have done, they automatically pull in opportunities from the outside. So, but for this, they really have to trust in the process and to actually allow opportunities to show up. And I think sometimes in our society, we are so fast in everything that we forget to actually take that step back and allow ourselves to integrate everything in order to realign to our purpose and to become masterful in what we're doing.
Yeah, I love the word masterful for this archetype here.
Yes.
It's so true. Yeah. And with that sacral, it's like the alchemist really does have the ability to persevere and to be persistent in what they do and to reach that mastery.
Yes. And there's certainly a lot of devotion in here as well. Like devoting themselves to the purpose, to that higher thing that they're working towards.
Yeah.
A good contemplation question maybe is for the alchemists out there, what can you do to cultivate more patience and alignment? What do you need to make space for in your life in order to like give yourself the patience and the trust in the process?
Yeah. And I think for this type, sometimes when you do something that you really enjoy doing, that feels juicy for you, that feels excited for you, sometimes we don't have the patience for that because we feel like that's going to take forever, or that's like the world has, the society has really put an emphasis on hard work and sometimes doing the work that you don't actually enjoy because the results are faster and so on and so forth. But I think this archetype is so magical that it has to have that patience in doing what it enjoys doing and deconditioning the other types of mindset and becoming that juicy person.
Yes. And I think like the strategy, wait to respond, doesn't sound juicy at all. But actually, it doesn't mean to wait. It really means to like keep your vibration high, to follow through with the things that bring you joy and happiness. So it's not at all a waiting itself, actually.
Mm. Oh yeah, it's interesting that you put it like that. Is to continue to keep like your optimism, your vibration, your ability to respond to life
Yes.
active. Yeah. So you wrote here to turn inspiration into form, which is what Karen Curry says for this type. Do you want to tell me how you feel a little bit about that? Like, what does it mean to turn inspiration into form for you?
I have the picture of really the alchemist here, like brewing, devoting itself to a higher purpose, and like being inspired by like what is like really your passion. And I think sometimes we really you're devoting yourself to a higher purpose, and by putting all this effort, all this energy in there, it's just like brewing. And in the end there it will create something beautiful, where at the beginning maybe you had the vision of what it will turn into, but you didn't really know why. You just had this bigger vision in mind. And if you devote yourself to it, if you realign to your learning process, and you really take the patience or have the patience and go step by step, then you bring something into form. Like, it doesn't have to be gold or like typical for the alchemist. But it's materializing your vision into reality, basically.
That's perfect for the witch that I've chosen, actually, for this one. When you're saying,
okay, let me hear.
So I've chosen the kitchen witch for this one. There's a type of witch that's called the kitchen witch. It's all about brewing things. And I really like this for the alchemist because it's like you have to take natural plants and things that is just like you can't do anything with it yet, but it inspires you to create a dish out of it. And then you turn that into, you put in a pot, in a pan, and then you begin to cook it and brew it, and then it becomes something different. It's kind of like this alchemy that happens in the kitchen. Yes. And there's a lot of waiting to respond because you have to be there to see if it's boiling, if the things that you're making is going the way that you're planning, and you devote yourself and you put your love and magic into it, and I think it's just beautiful. So yeah, I can read. I don't have a poem for this one, but I have a very nice passage that I found for the kitchen witch. Should I go ahead and read it, Cindy?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I guess this is like a definition of a kitchen witch, but it's very beautifully written. It says, "The kitchen witch's potion is a soup, and their magical wand is a trusty wooden spoon. They keep an altar next to the stove with an offering of salt for Edicea, Roman goddess of feasting and food. Cooking becomes a sacred art for the kitchen witch. They're not just a wizard in the kitchen, but crafts a personal space with great intention and care. Able to find spirit in the dishwasher and gratitude in the millionth of load of laundry. Sweeping the floor free of dust can be a sacred act of cleansing unwanted energy. A kitchen witch may not often dedicate a specific time and resources to ceremony. Instead, they work intuitively rather than ritually to find the magic in everyday life." One reason why cooking is regarded as a sacred art is that all of life is performed as a ceremony. The kitchen witch may feel disconnected from the craft if they lose kinship to the ingredients that are most special to them. They may feel the longing of juicy, ripe peaches in the middle of winter, and pray for warm comfort food in the summer if they lose balance. Living in tune with what foods are in season during each time of year can help the kitchen witch restore sacred balance in life and home. So this is by naturallymodernlife.com. Just wanted to share that as well. Yeah, I just love like the juicy ingredients and things like that.
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Okay, the time bender.
Okay. So traditionally in human design, this is called the manifesting generator. So I wonder then, could you call this archetype the initiator alchemist? You play with words like that. But yes, so Karen Curry Parker calls it in quantum human design the time bender. So in traditional, the manifesting generator is first and foremost a generator type with a defined sacral, but they also have that connection of a motor to the throat. So they have that part that's in common with the manifestor as well. Um, but I think their strategy is to wait to respond first and then to inform if they want to do something. So I think it was Richard Beaumont that I was listening to, and he said that this type is a generator at the beginning where they're waiting for something juicy to respond to. But the moment they decide to respond to that thing, they don't want to be interrupted, just like the manifestor. So that's why they need to inform other people around them as well. So they don't fall into anger and they need to respond to something so they're not in frustration, but instead they have satisfaction and peace. And of course, manifesting generators, traditionally, we know them as skipping steps and they don't have that gradual learning curve like a generator. They do things much faster, but then they may have to go back and correct or fix what they've skipped and what mistakes were made there. And they are also a little bit multitasking type as well.
Yes, so in quantum human design, since they are a generator type, they're also here to turn inspiration into form, like the alchemists. But as Tan said, they're here to find the most efficient way through it, which can be, I would say, a blessing and a curse. Because of this like learning curve where they're skipping steps. And so sometimes, and I think I can talk here from or speak from experiences as a manifesting generator. We're just stepping not only over one like little stair, we step over like 3 or 4, and like being almost finished with that process, we realize, oh no, I've forgotten something actually at the beginning of the process. So we have to go back all this stairs, let's say, and start over. But I mean, that's kind of a curse, but it's also a blessing because it is like teaching us which steps or stairs we can actually jump over. This process, like we need to devote ourselves, or the time benders have to devote themselves into this process of trial and error, because like this we will find to that like end result, to turning the inspiration into form. And as you said, like we have this waiting to respond thing from the alchemists, but then once we have something to respond to, it's kind of this initiating energy that is coming through, and which is also showing in this creative flow, and not like being to want to be interrupted. Sorry.
Yeah, I do you drive, Cindy?
Like a car?
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you a fast driver?
Sometimes.
Because I've noticed this a lot. Like manifesting generators drive really fast. So I've noticed, like, I mean, if I wanted to compare, generator or would say the alchemist to the time bender in terms of speed, like the alchemist or the generator will start very slowly with their car or with their speed, but they will keep going, for a long time. But the time bender, the manifesting generator, they just start their car, they just go, and then there's like a break. If something happens, they have to break, and then you're sitting in the car, you're like, oh, what's happening? And then like, oops, I stepped over that curve there, and then they keep going and they drive pretty fast. So there's like this difference here that I thought was interesting.
Yes, we want to speed up the quantum process, basically, and their timing.
Yeah.
Like there's no time to waste.
No, yeah.
And yes, I think you mentioned it before that the time bender also has this multitasking ability, or for them it's actually crucial to work on different projects, so they can put their creative energy into whatever is coming in actually, and whatever is feeling aligned at that moment. And that can be hard as a child, for example, because we are always trained to like follow through with one thing. So for a manifesting generator child, it's important to allow them to work on different projects, and that also they don't have to follow through with everything. Like some creative projects are also only there to burn off some energy, because like the time benders have a lot of energy to burn off. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah, and this can come with a great sense of guilt if you start a lot of projects and then you don't follow through with them, because there are like the expectations of others, of society, that what you start you finish, but it's not always like this.
What would you say is like the purpose or the lesson or the purpose of like for the time bender when they can't finish something?
If they can finish something, to allow themselves to not be disappointed in themselves, and to still trust that they learned something out of this process, because everything is an experience. And even if we stop with something and we didn't finish it, there is, like you said, still a message behind. And to, like, I would say, be gentle. If you are like a manifesting generator, be gentle with yourself, and don't put so high expectations on yourself that make you then being disappointed if you don't follow through, because some projects are just really there to get rid of some physical energy. So and you mentioned it before, patience. I think that's a really big keyword for the manifesting generator, to implement some kind of rituals in their lives that will allow patience, and that you don't all the time hurry through life. So one contemplation question for the time bender is, how do you actually feel about yourself if something doesn't work out the way you hoped?
What has been your experience with this? What did you feel about yourself when this happened?
I felt like quite often in my life, like really disappointed, or I was judging myself because, like, for example, I started some education, and in the middle of it, I actually, or a course, and then I realized in the middle of it, well, but actually that's not what I want to do. And maybe by then I already had paid the fee of like several $1,000s or something. And then I was like, oh no, now I've wasted all this money. And in the process, I actually realized that's not even for me.
Yeah. I think it's important to know that whatever you've done goes into the quantum fields. Like whatever energy you've put into whatever you do, it's out there somewhere. Maybe you've triggered somebody else that you didn't know to do what you did, and maybe they finished it and they did something in their lives with it, even though you didn't. So maybe there's a little bit of that magical quality coming in.
Yes, I certainly hope so.
Yeah. So this one I've chosen a witch that I'm not very familiar with, but when I read about it, I was like, I think it has a lot to do with the time bender. And this witch is called the Hedge Witch. So I'm just going to read it out so we can see like what this means. This is from teaandrosemary.com. So they say that historically, the term hedge witch was used for anyone who lived along the fringes of a village, behind the hedgerows. The village was on the side of the hedges, and the unknown wild beyond was on the other side. There used to be solitary men and women who acted as shamans and witches in daily life, and they just offered their services in divination or healing. However, the hedge witch has always had a type of double meaning. Terms like hedge crossing, hedge riding, or hedge jumping all refer to the hedge witch venturing into another realm while keeping one foot in the mundane world. And so divination is almost always involved in the hedge witch's practice. Seeing beyond the veil is really important for most hedge witches. This can refer to astral travel to other worlds or various other realms, depending on the tradition and beliefs set the witch is working with. The term head witch is experimental. These witches practice folk magic that is passed down or learned through trial and error. The head witch is quite eclectic in his or her practice. Most head witches work alone because they don't conform to any one tradition. The magic that they practice is results-based. If something works, the head witch will repeat the process and scrap rituals that have no practical effect. The head witch respects both the old and new traditions because they base their practice on practicality rather than on ritual alone. Because the head witch is so eclectic, they can be a psychic, medium, healer, witch, counselor, herbalist, and shaman all in one. So that's kind of like the definition of the head witch here that I found. And I liked the time bender and the ability to travel beyond realms and like astral traveling and being able to jump across the hedge to the other realms, which a lot of witches maybe used to just work within their village and they didn't explore beyond that. So I just chose the switch.
I found it interesting that you said that they are supposed or that they like to work alone, because I think that's true for a manifesting generator at the beginning, because then we somehow have to realize that we can also delegate some stuff to other people, because sometimes the manifesting generator thinks, okay, I anyway do everything faster than the other, so why should I keep or leave this task for anyone else? I will be faster. But in the end, you can still, even though you have a lot of energy, you can still burn yourself out. So it's important to learn to delegate things to others as well.
Yeah. Okay, so the next type in human design is the traditionally called the projector, and in quantum human design it's called the orchestrator. So the projector in human design, I think makes up about 20% of the population, if I'm correct. So this is also an undefined sacral type, but they also have no motors to the throat. So undefined sacral and no motors to the throat. So the strategy for the projector is to wait for an invitation before they take on big decisions in their life. And if they don't, they can experience bitterness. That's the shadow of that. But if they do wait for the invitation, they take on the right invitations in their life, they can experience what is called success. So the projector has this aura, they call it penetrating aura, because they're able to see into the other, so other people and the auras of other people. And so traditionally, we would look at the projector in traditional human design as being a guide for others in their energy and how they can use energy in a more efficient way.
Yes, and when we come to the quantum interpretation of the projector, then it's called the orchestrator. And they are kind of holding the energetic template of what's yet to come in the world. And they're here to really heal the energy of the world. And I just quoted that from Karen Curry Parker because I really like that explanation. For orchestrators, I always have the feeling that they are really very intuitive beings. And they naturally understand energies. Of course, if they allow themselves to. I mean, there are also projectors out there that are like not going deeper into, let's say, this energetic spirit or spiritual realm, let's say. But these are also, in my experience, the ones that are kind of suffering of health issues, because like they have so much openness in there that for them it's easy to take on like also like manifesting diseases on a physical level, like through others, actually through their interaction with others. So but if an orchestrator is aligned with their purpose, then they are really kind of bring this knowledge and insights and wisdom here onto this earth in order to guide and lead others. So that's really beautiful. Like many orchestrators that I know, they're very gentle, but in their way of like expressing themselves, but they have like so much knowledge that they already brought into this life. So but because they are so different to all the other types, they sometimes feel like they cannot really value themselves because they often don't have the energy to work in 9-to-5 jobs like others. I mean, they still, if they find their passion, also projectors or orchestrators are, it's possible for them to work like 7-8 hours per day, but then it really has to be their passion and they need to love what they're doing. So if you as an orchestrator feel any sense of bitterness in your life, then this can be a sign that you don't have enough self-worth, that you like comparing yourself with others, with like alchemists maybe, or time benders that are like here to do the work in the world. But your job is actually to kind of keep the energetic template. And like, it's always like a foundation. I have the feeling like the orchestrator is the foundation for the new era that is yet to come. And it can be a lack of self-worth if you feel bitterness, but it can also mean that you need to rest. And that's really, really crucial for orchestrators, that you allow yourself to really replenish your energy. And if that means that you haven't, like in the middle of the day, you have to take a nap, do it. Like, don't hesitate. And don't just say, well, but this person doesn't have to do it and still has the energy. Doesn't matter. Like, if you feel tired, allow yourself to rest. And sorry, yes.
Go ahead.
With this, you are replenishing the energy. You are kind of like keeping your vibration high. And in this way, you will pull in opportunities, invitations into your life, because the orchestrator, they have to be seen and valued in order to be heard, and then they can transmit their wisdom. So, but for this, you need to have the energy to actually like answer or interact or follow these invitations that are coming your way.
Yeah. Thank you, Cindy. And here Karen says that the orchestrator is here to hold the energetic template of what's yet to come. For you, how do you feel about that phrase? What does that mean for you? Like what is coming? And what does it mean to hold the energetic template?
Oh, that's a big question. So, I mean, certainly in human design, we can look for the 2027 transmutation, or how you say, what is
the global cycle.
Yes, exactly. So I hope that the orchestrator, with all this wisdom and these insights, they are already coming into this world, that they are kind of like, projectors are the ones that can really see beyond the mask. So they are great psychologists, coaches, or whatever, like working with people, because they see the conditioning, and they see what is actually behind. So we all like to put on a mask if we are talking with others, because we don't allow ourselves to be authentic. And I think that's the point, like why we are right now in the world where we are, because people are not authentic. They don't allow themselves to really express and go deeper into their happiness. They're actually not able to just follow their joy and happiness, because they have all the time in mind, okay, they have to feed their family, they have to make money, like they have to go. So, and I think the orchestrator is here to kind of support like the other, let's say 70% of humanity, that there's also another way that you can connect your, let's say, the mundane world with the spiritual realm, and that there is more, like beyond the ordinary job. Let's say, like, all jobs are important, they all have to be done, but you can be happy. Like, you have to allow yourself to feel the purpose you're fulfilling in what you're doing.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I have this image of like cars, like generators and manifesting generators being all of these cars, and they're just going wild. That's kind of what the world is right now. There's going in all these different directions, or maybe they're all going in one direction and there's traffic and it's getting very crowded. But there's all these other beautiful directions that they could go into, and they're not. And I feel like maybe to hold that energetic template for what's yet to come is kind of like to stand in your worth as a orchestrator or projector. And maybe standing in your worth means you're standing in the direction that nobody else is standing in, so that those generators can be like, oh, what's that orchestrator projector doing? Maybe I'll just come and check it out and ask, and then the orchestrator, the projector is like, oh, this is a new path, this is maybe aligned with your energy, I don't know, is it, that kind of an energy picture, like what I'm seeing.
That's beautiful. Yes. And I think the generators, they can actually, or they have to invite the projectors. So that's what we were talking before. Also, manifesting generators, they have to actually delegate. They have to ask for something in order to kind of activate the power of the orchestrator. And then something that can guide them through the process. And so it's just like all these different archetypes, we can actually work together and create something beautiful.
Yeah. And I think the word invitation itself is quite special, because I know a lot of projectors don't like it when they have to wait for an invitation, but an invitation is so special. Like if you're invited to some kind of party, or you're invited to some kind of, special event, that's very special in itself. And you have to, as a projector orchestrator, you have to value that, when you got these invitations, people saw something in you that was really special. So you don't want to get just any random invitation. You don't want to get invitation to go to, like, I don't know, some some party that you don't want to go to, that's not in line with your energy, right? You wanted the special one that's, right for you. So I think it's to view it like that. Yeah.
That's important that you're mentioning that, because I think some projectors, they can also become thirsty for invitations or for opportunities. But I mean, drinking from the wrong cup can be poisonous as well.
Yeah.
So you really have to be discerning about which invitations to follow and when to say no.
Yeah, for sure. And that the invitations that are right for you are something that is for the future, and it has a purpose, that it will invite you into what's yet to come in the future, so you can play a role in that. So I think it's important to know that.
Yeah. So a good contemplation question would be, how can you cultivate your energy and increase your sense of self-worth if you are an orchestrator?
So the witch for the orchestrator that I've chosen, I was looking at two of them. One of them is the crystal witch, and the other one is, I think it's the green witch. So the crystal witch, I found this website that you can kind of, how do you know if you're a crystal witch, and the different, what's it called? Like boxes you can tick, to see if you are a crystal witch or not. So, of course, a crystal witch works with crystals, and they say the first sign is that you collect rocks. The second sign is you see auras. So I'll just read about this one because this feels very like Orchestrator projector to me. So a big reason why you're attracted to those pretty shiny rocks is that you naturally pick up on vibrational frequencies. As such, extending this gift to being able to see auras is pretty typical for a crystal witch. To take this gift even further, you can eventually incorporate chosen crystals to develop your ability to read auras. The third sign is that you feel energies. Every living thing puts out vibrational frequencies. While you may not be able to see them, you can feel them, or you may be able to do both. As such, working with crystals come naturally to you and simply makes sense. The fourth one, this is the one that I love most, is you love making crystal grids. There are ancient sacred geometric grids that have been put into practice by crystal witches for centuries. These grids were built upon energetic patterns to amplify and strengthen chosen crystals for an end goal. These pattern grids emit an energetic vibration and powerful frequency that can be absorbed by our environment and ourselves. By altering our environmental energy and pattern, we have the ability of transformation. So, and there's other points here as well, such as you're fascinated by the metaphysical property of crystals. You love to give others crystals to help with their issues. You're picky about the jewelry you wear. And yeah, those are the different signs for the crystal witch. But I just love how the crystal grid is associated with this template. And I just feel like there's a connection there.
Yes. And also crystals, they're kind of bringing, like, for me, it has always something to do with healing. Or like if you just take the time to do this crystal grids, for example, then it gives you some inner peace, and this can lead to healing, or like of the emotional body as well. So, and I think an aligned orchestrator really knows how to take care, or at least knows that he or she has to take care of nurturing body, mind, and soul. So kind of the role models actually for others, that they're kind of like showing what is possible.
And as you said that, it's currently 11:11. What a sign. But yeah. Thank you for the orchestrator. I have a question. Why did you choose this woman picture as the orchestrator, by the way?
Yes, and the dragon. That's actually yes. Because I always have the feeling that orchestrators are really connected to, like, emotionally connected to the things beyond, like to Mother Nature, or even to the animals. I know, and I think you included, many orchestrators that are, for example, vegetarians, because they cannot deal with the pain of the animals, or they don't want to have this suffering energy in their bodies, let's say. And so I really like that picture. It's kind of like she's inwoven into the tree and into like some flowers, and
it's really beautiful. And the dragon?
Oh, and
there's a dragon there.
The dragon is actually because I was thinking of like magical creatures when I was thinking of the animal realm. So because I had a feeling that orchestrators, they can communicate really well, like with animals, or like they can feel the unspoken. And so I don't know, I just like dragons.
Yeah, which is like the other witch that I've also chosen is the green witch. And that's the witch that's attuned to nature and animals and works with nature and animals. So I chose it. But I also thought it was quite interesting. I felt like when I looked at the dragon is this wise creature, magical creature that lives in the cave and is called out for wisdom or something like that. I don't know, but yeah. Okay, nice.
Yeah. So then it's actually fitting that we go on with the reflector.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so in traditional human design, the last type is the reflector, and the reflector is very rare. It only makes up, they only make up 1% of the population because to be a reflector, all of the centers in your human design body graph are either undefined or open. So you can't have any channels in your human design body graph to be a reflector. And so therefore, what this means is the reflector is here to be like a mirror for humanity, the state, the health of humanity, the health of society, the health of the environment. And they reflect back to us what is healthy and what is not in certain circumstances and situations. And so the strategy for the traditional reflector type is to wait a moon cycle, is it 28 days, to make big decisions because they are a lunar being and all the other human design types are solar beings. If I'm correct here. And this is the only type that's attuned to the lunar energies. So if they are able to do that, they will experience their higher self of surprise. But if they are not making decisions based on this, they may experience disappointment.
Yeah. And in quantum human design, the reflectors are called the calibrators. So they're kind of a, do you say barometer? And in order to mirroring others or to others, the human condition and human potential. So because the calibrator, as we know from human design, they have no center defined. So they are experiencing the world through their completely open centers, which is really interesting. So
I wonder what it feels like to be a reflector or a calibrator.
yes, they basically, because openness in the chart has, of course, is a great source for wisdom, but also for conditioning. So they can basically feel, obviously, so much of what is going on around them, of like all the feelings, emotions, scarcities, ideas of the people around them. And on the other side, they're also seeing the potential of what's possible for humanity. They are seeing like really what is possible. And this is kind of can make them fall in love with the potentials in a person, which is, it doesn't mean that the person is actually already living out these potentials. So there, this is where disappointment, what you said before, can happen for a reflector. So because they're sensing kind of on the one side the gap between the potential and then what they're actually wanting to create. And so for them it's also easy, if they're not aware of it, to actually merge with others. And like, for example, especially in being in a relationship, for them it's easy to merge with their partner's identity, let's say, or like personality traits, and without actually fulfilling their own potential. And so that's why for them it is so important to choose the right environment and the right people to surround themselves with, because they are taking so much energy in. So
yeah, I even feel like this type can be like a great person to review or critique certain fields of avenues, you know, like for example, is this restaurant a good restaurant or not? What's good about it? What's like kind of like a restaurant review person. And even like if they're part of a spiritual community, they can even be very good at mirroring back to the spiritual community the health of that spiritual community. And that's what we see maybe like with Teal Swan, who is like a reflector, and
yeah,
she's part of the spiritual community, but she does critique certain spiritual practices and how certain spiritual practices are actually not right or not good. So
Yeah. And I think she's a good example for a calibrator who connected with her own needs and wants, actually. So she can go beyond, she can criticize, so she can see what is healthy for her or and what is not healthy. Like is she just trying actually to heal others, or like in her past life, let's say, or former years. Um, so that's where calibrators always have, like, I think that's their trial and error process in life, to like really give themselves the time, or like this full lunar cycle where like the moon and the sun, like all these inner planets, are moving through the different gates, and then giving different energies, different archetypes to the calibrator, and giving him or her the energy on some days, for example, of a projector, maybe, or even for a generator, where then they are able to have this sacral energy for a moment, and where they can create things, or like where they can tune into other people's sacral energy and use that energy to bring something into fruition.
Yeah, I guess I have a little bit of a, maybe I'm not sure if it's a question, but so if the calibrator waits a full lunar cycle, that means that the moon would go through all the 64 gates in their body graph and maybe highlights certain things, maybe make connections with some hanging gates that they have. I don't know how you feel about that. Do you feel like that, like what does that do to the calibrator and their bodies? What do you think?
Well, I would actually like to, for maybe 2 months, like be a calibrator and see how it really feels, because like this I can just assume. But I think it isn't different than for us if we are experiencing, or if we are trying to take time and contemplate on all the different gates the sun and moon are moving in, and see how this is actually playing out within us. So I think that should be the same for a reflector. I think, like, if there is a reflector out there, please let us know how it feels. If you really take the time and sit and really like journal, maybe every day the sun or the moon is moving into another gate, if there is a difference in energy, or how you even perceive energies around you or within you.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting to even experiment. But I think as we are solar beings, I think for us, maybe we are more attuned to the sun and the gates that the sun passes through. So that would take us a year to kind of do that kind of, reflection. But it's fascinating that the reflector or the calibrator would take a month because they would be attuned to the moon. And so I wonder if that's where their, wisdom is really coming in here, because every month they get to have that gate be activated again and again and again for them, or feel into that gate again and again for them. Because if they're feeling into the energies of gate, let's say 42, they would feel that every month because the moon would be there every month. But for us, it would be a year. In 1 year, then we would feel that.
Yes, I like that thinking. So that's maybe really where calibrators take their wisdom from, or like their experiences. And it's really crucial. I mean, I only met actually one calibrator, like personally. So for her, it was obviously so important to be in the right environment, because otherwise she had all the time health problems, and nobody really knew where they're coming from. And when she changed the environment, also these diseases in the body stopped. So that was really interesting. Yes.
Yeah, I don't know any calibrators. What did you think about this calibrator? I mean, like, what was her like aura like, and did you feel she was just different from other people you knew in some ways?
Yes. So I was very fresh in the relationship at that time, and we were together, spending quite a bit of time with this girl. And so in the end, we had the feeling that she was kind of jealous if I didn't spend enough time with her. So, but in the end, we figured out that this was actually the underlying issue of my partner, that he became, because it was a fresh relationship, that he became jealous if I was spending too much time with others. So I think the way reflectors or calibrators are working is that they're really taking in the energies of others and then reflecting them out, but they have actually to distance themselves, like at least inside of them, and have to know, okay, that's not my jealousy, actually that's the jealousy of another person.
Wow, that's so fascinating.
Yes.
Wow, okay. They really do then just kind of be that mirror.
Yeah.
Like letting you see yourself.
And yes, and at the beginning I was kind of like blaming her, let's say, and I was like, oh come on, like that's my partner, I can spend time with both of you, or however that, like whatever. But then I actually sat down with him and we were talking about it, and then we kind of reflected on that.
Wow, thanks for sharing that.
Yes.
Didn't know. Okay. Wait, do you have any? Oh yes. Do you have anything else to share about the calibrator?
Yeah, a good contemplation question for the calibrator is, do you feel responsible for fixing others and heal the pain of humanity? So really reflect on things in your life where you actually try to heal the pain of others, maybe, and or see potential in others that they're, or you are not aware of, that they don't live fully in these potentials yet, and then really be discerning if these people are okay for you and for your health or not. And I think like the physical health is, or mental health as well, is a really good indicator here to distinguish whether your surrounding and the people are healthy for you or not.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yes.
Yeah, so should I go into the witch that I have for this one? So I think it's very obvious. The witch that I have here is, well, they have different terms for it. It can be the lunar witch or the moon witch or the cosmic witch. So the cosmic witch works with planets and stars and also the moon, but the lunar witch is part of a cosmic witch that works specifically with the moon. I didn't really find any articles that explained too much about it, but I found something that I can read out here. It says here, the lunar witch. This is from found on Pinterest. Lunar witches are deeply connected with the moon and the moon phases and draw their power from the moon. When performing their magical work, they correspond it with the phases of the moon. And for the cosmic witch, this is from a Pagans and Witches Amino app. The cosmic witch works with energies of the cosmos and all celestial bodies within it. This could include the stars, planets, asteroids, deep space objects. This is pretty much the all-encompassing type. This term can be used interchangeably with the celestial witch as well. So yeah, that's what I have there.
Yeah, I like that.
All-encompassing.
And I think certainly the archetype of a reflector is some energy that we can all implement a little bit more into our lives, I think. Like just feeling more into nature and how we interact with nature and with people around us, how they make us feel.
Yeah. Just like even for all of us, journaling during new moons or full moons, that's so powerful for reflection and contemplation. You can find out so much about yourself that when you spend that time to be in the dark of the new moon in your room, it's kind of really reflecting when the moon is so powerful there, or when the full moon, whatever works. I think there's a lot that can come up with regards to who you are and yourself.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Thank you for that, Cindy. That was definitely very magical, and I learned a lot more than I did before with regards to each of the types as well, and just amazing discussions and beautiful slides. I love it. Do you have any last messages that you want to share with the audience about the types or anything?
Yes, I think for all of us, it doesn't matter which type we are. It's important that we allow ourselves to really be who we are and to be authentic and to don't hesitate in being who we are because we have some conditionings from childhood or these conditionings from childhood. They can all be experiences and like learning experiences that we chose to go through. And if we go through it, then this is so powerful. If we once really like see and activate our power. So just have the courage to go your path, nevertheless, what everybody else is telling you.
Yeah, nice. And we're all multidimensional beings, so there's many dimensions to who we are, you know.
Oh, yes.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Cindy. And if you guys are watching out there and you want to share some of your experiences or opinions about each of the different types in traditional or quantum human design, then just comment below. We love reading your comments. And if you are interested in getting a human design reading from Cindy, she is available and she would love to be your guides on your human design journeys, discovering more about yourself. You can go to my website to get a reading from her. I'll provide a link to that in the description box below as well. So that's it. Have a beautiful day, beautiful souls. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.